What is the best type of socket to get for a below the knee amputee? I'm gonna share with you guys. I spent 20 years of testing different sockets and prosthetics so you guys don't have to. And I'm gonna share with you guys just a few of the sockets that I brought up here and tell you guys, in my opinion, the best one. And over the years, I've switched and tried different things, so I'm gonna tell you the pros and cons of each one. Let's go ahead and start off when my first kind of socket, got the Rolling Stones on here, which is pretty dope. But this valve right here, now I don't know what the name of it is, but it's pretty recognizable. And if you go into a prosthetist, like any prosthetist shop, they're gonna know what this is. But this was a one-way valve suction where I actually had a neoprene sleeve at the time, so it did not hold or maintain like a seal, but it just had some good texture. It was like kind of wetsuit material on my skin, which was actually pretty good of maintaining friction in the water, so during any water sports. And I wore a ring liner with this. So let's see here, I got a ring in here somewhere. Okay, right here. So typically you can get like, I got another, yeah. So for instance, like Oster makes liners. Some of them have these, this is the Ice Cross Seal and X, but a lot of them have these types of rings attached on the bottom there. And, or you can get these where you can just slide it on. So like for instance, my current system with the pin, if I want a ring on there or not, and obviously this will look a little bit better once it's on your leg, but you get the point. And so then that way, when it pushes through here, it pushes the air out and it creates a seal in here. So then you have a seal from wherever that ring is in the socket, and then you have this much of like suction. You can move it up and you get a little more suction as well. The bummer or the bad part about this was the valve. The valves are not good for just suction and or the ring. And I've had friends when I was a teenager be able to pull my leg off when I just had the ring for the socket. So I do not like just ring sockets, especially for everyday use. I have used it in the past with a suction socket like this for a long jump this last year when I was in Italy. They made me one and it had a 5X or 5 rings. So it was like down here and there was like 5 of them. So it was 3 or 5. But anyways, it had way more support of holding on the socket to my limb with a sleeve on there. And I had used this kind of Oster blue silicone sleeve. This is my favorite sleeve from Oster, by the way. And it worked pretty decent, but the problem is like he had an inner socket in there and it wasn't holding suction. So that's an issue. I'm not a fan of the one-way valve with ring, in my opinion, especially because typically when prosthetists make this, it is very rare to find a prosthetist that can make this style of socket, like very rigid, where they cast it on there and they don't do a vacuum seal, but yet they're trying to maintain seal like through a one-way valve. So in my opinion, it always leaks and you're always hearing that tss, or if you're sitting for a long period of time, then you get up, you're gonna hear the air push back out. And I don't like this because then you know there's a leak in there and it's not maintaining like a seal. Now let's go on to, I guess we'll go to the vacuum system. And the vacuum system is great. Now this is actually pretty heavy. That's the only issue is these kind of sockets, or at least this design with how it mounted on the back. And I could do a video too of like, what's the best way to attach, a prosthetic socket. I'll do a video on that if you guys are interested. And I could do one even more deep dive into liners and sleeves and what I think is best because I've tried so many. But I don't want to have this video be too long-winded. But this one right here, so this is the same as this one. This is just a cool socket I thought I'd bring up. And this is a vacuum seal. Now the difference is the sockets are less rigid. They're much more flexible and they have an inner socket in here. And this is to have a more anatomical fit around your knee. So that way, when I have a sleeve over this thing, this inner socket can flex around my knee, which is a more anatomical fit. And this outer socket is actually pretty light because it's so freaking thin. Now here's the downside. This has, like, you can see it's cracking. The insides start to crack as well. This one you can see like kind of cracking as well on the outside. These are great. These are great sockets, and even though it's heavier, especially if you put on a vacuum, like let me grab one. Oh, I got it in my pocket. So this is from Ohio Willowwood. They make like vacuum devices, and this is called the LimLogic Verse, or V5, I think it's Verse, VS, LimLogic. This is one of the earlier versions. This was a long time ago. This is back in like 2012 and 13. And this, maybe you see the bolts down here. We just fit this nice and snug right in here. So that way it was covered. But the thing is, this is like 6.8 ounces. It's less than a pound, but you would be so surprised that like you train on this for a few months, you remove it and you're like, wow, my limb can move so much faster, so you can increase the frequency. So when it comes to racing, especially like in the 400 meters, that's what I did. This is a heavy socket, especially how they connected it. And the vacuum seal is nice because actually when you get a vacuum seal, it makes it feel like whatever weight is there is like, dude, you don't even feel it because it's such a snug fit. Like, can you see like the play around my knee? Like, this is like a loose fitting socket, right? When you get a vacuum seal, it is so snug. It is not loose fitting because you have this inner flexible socket, and then you have a sleeve over it. So it's like, it's right on your knee, which is nice. But here's the downsides. Your socket's going to only last like maybe a year, maybe 2 max. It just depends on what events you're doing on it and how much impact. Now you can do a one-way valve on here with the vacuum sealed socket and pull with like a brake bleeder or a fresh saver for frozen like food and stuff, and you'll get great results. The downside is, let's say that you have a sleeve. This is one we used to rock. It's called the Spider Sleeve by PROSTHETIC, who used to make my sockets. Really thin, which is nice for range of motion, flexibility. It's a lot thinner than the Oster silicone sleeve right here, and it's lighter too. But it doesn't matter what sleeve I'm rocking, you get a little tiny, like you bump your knee on something, you get a hole, game over. You're trying to move it down now. Trying to move your sleeve down now and still get a vacuum seal. Now, if you have the vacuum pump on there, it'll automatically like recognize like lower pressure, and it'll pull vacuum again, which is great because then it's automatically just doing it as you're working out and stuff. And it can actually wick sweat out of this. So this system, you could put like one of these like really thin socks over your liner and then into your liner, and it'll wick sweat out. Now these vacuum sealed sockets, you're gonna want to have a polyurethane liner with it. Now the thing is, these are heavy liners, and here's the downsides of this liner. You have to put on lotion before you put this liner on, because it will literally, like wherever it's sealed at, it'll raise the top layer of your skin. And if you don't have lotion on there, it's gonna start pulling your skin away from your body, and it's gonna create like, it's gonna pull it, and it's gonna like be really, really tacky in here, and it's gonna start shaving layers of skin off, and it's not fun. I've had that happen a lot of times wearing these liners, and the thing is, they are custom fit, so that is really good. You get a custom fit socket, custom fit liner. The downside, these are really expensive. But like some of the benefits is like when you have the sock over here and you put it on the inside with a vacuum sealed socket with the Ohio Willowwood LimLogic pump, it'll wick sweat out. So that's kind of nice, but it's still tricky because when you race at the Paralympic level, you want like a really fast Formula One car, which are stupid light. So you want a really light foot. You don't want it really heavy. You don't want to be rocking this because you're not doing distance. You're doing 100, 200 meters, you know? And so you want something that you can really have good frequency. But the thing is, like, dude, you're gonna be sweating a lot. and you're probably not going to have a pump on there because you want it to be really light. You're going to have a one-way valve, and you're going to pump that before you get in the blocks, but you may feel like your sleeve starts to like slip down on your thigh, or because you have a lot of muscle definition, the like striations in your muscles now create a gap in your sleeve, and then you get air into your sleeve, and then you're in the blocks and you're like, crap, I got air in my sleeve and in my liner and I can feel it. And then that's what you're thinking about instead of thinking about like react, you know, or like just thinking about nothing. So I've had so many races lost because my legs started slipping off using this system. It was a really good, really big bummer because I was performing really good and I was running fast, and man, it's like you just don't know what you would have ran in those races because you had leg problems. But that's just the name of the game, and nobody knows, like everybody's trying to figure out what's best, and they try it out. And I used this for years because I had sockets made on it. I didn't want to switch and start the system over. And then finally, when I went to Italy, I was like, dude, we're starting from scratch. I don't want to use these polyurethane liners anymore because they just give me so many problems when it gets really hot. And typically, as a track and field athlete, you're working out in the heat. Also, this system for surfing or wakeboarding, in my opinion, no bueno, dude. Like, this is not going to be good because as soon as water gets in there, dude, game over. It's done. Like, I've always done better. I learned, like, as a kid, wearing this one right here with a silicone liner, just like this with a ring. It was actually fine. When water came in there, I just pressed that one-way valve and I pull my leg back on, and I would see water squirt out of this thing. But the thing was, it was great because I had a neoprene sleeve and I had silicone, and both those materials had better friction on my skin. So I tried surfing with the polyurethane and my leg almost came off. And I was like, bro, I cannot have that. Like, this is the only leg I got. I'm by myself. Like, this cannot happen. And I had the vacuum on there. I was trying to stick my leg out there, out of the water. It was like, pumping and spitting water out. But I was like, dude, this is close calls, you know? So the benefits of this is a vacuum sealed socket is going to feel super snug and you get an anatomical fit. The downside is the socket lifetime on it is going to be limited compared to some of these harder sockets like this one right here. You got to wear the polyurethane, which I'm just not a fan of the polyurethane. I know some other athletes that are rocking it and that love it. That's what they have. That's what they use. And it's a very good anatomical fit. The other issue is getting this. Like, you need to have a stable residual limb size, and this will help you find it. But dude, I had so many problems before I got to that point, especially if you are trying to use a prosthetist that is not familiar with making vacuum sealed sockets. It's a whole different method than the archaic system where they're just like casting it like you broke a bone. It's very different. They also use different resin in this. They use different resin than they're going to use for any of the suction ones. And that's important to know because this resin is more brittle. That's why the sockets don't last as long. Also, because it's thinner, they got an inner socket. So they make up for the outer socket being thinner with having an inner socket in there, so it's still very rigid overall and energy can transfer through. Those are the downsides, in my opinion, for the vacuum sealed socket. Now, let's go back over to, you can rock the suction with a vacuum sealed socket. This was like a suction one. I don't have the inner socket in here, but I use the polyurethane with this. And this was actually this is just a one-way valve, so I didn't even pull suction with it or vacuum with it. But this socket worked pretty decently, and I didn't run any hand pump or anything. I just wanted to be able to have a socket that I could walk in and it would push air out, and I just didn't have to worry about it. And I got used to the more looser feel of the socket. You adapt to whatever you have. And this socket is a little bit more thin because to accommodate for the inner socket that would go with it. Now, yeah, this is just a cool socket that was made in vacuum seal. They're really cool. Now this, obviously it's a direct laminated. We can go into details about that in another video. Now this is a one-way valve right here, right? One-way valve, suction socket, and this is made for like this liner right here, the silicone one. Like this one really is like what I'll wear with it, and I could rock the ring, but I don't, just not comfortable around my calf. But this would work, or even without these little rigid lines right here. the Seal and X lines, and then I rock a sleeve over it like this. Now, here is the downside of this one. It is so hard to find a prosthetist that can make a suction socket that holds seal. Now, theoretically, this should be all sealed. They put a bunch of sealant stuff on there on the inside, on the outside, and we got the one-way valve, and the valve works great. And I've spent hours and days with prosthetists where they're like, they put the seal over it and they pull it and it looks like it's holding it. And I'm like, okay, well, let me try it on. And I try it on and I'm like, okay, it's pushing air out. You can hear it. And then I sit down and the sleeve like goes in, like comes in, right? Like it's holding suction and then slowly comes out. And you can feel it. As an amputee, you can absolutely feel it. And usually prosthetists that make suction sockets like this that don't have the vacuum sealed system just struggle with creating a sealed socket. That's just in my own experience. Now, there's probably some prosthetists out there that can do it really good, but I've just had so many issues working with the best prosthetists in the world, like the guys that are the best at aligning it, you know, like that's what I'm talking about. And you know, it's tough to find someone that really is you know, good at it, and then also will be like, dude, well, the sockets, you know, it's tough too, because as an athlete, you have a certain amount of time. Like I'm flying to these places to go work with these guys, and I'm there for a week or so, and it's like, man, well, the socket's still not holding suction, and the prosthetist's like, dude, I don't know what to do. And that's not a fun place to be in, but as an athlete, I had to just kind of like flip the switch, like, whatever, screw it, I'm gonna make it work, and we're gonna figure this out. And I did. Luckily, like long jumping, it's fine because I can kind of like pump it and get it going, and it can hold for that short amount of distance. But for the 100 meters and stuff, like if I'm getting the blocks, like I don't want to feel like it's getting loose. So that's the only bummer and issue that I've ran into with this socket right here. Rango came to hang out with us and check out the legs. Okay, the last one is the pin system. The pin system. Now, a lot of guys I know, they'll rock pin and suction. This is a pin and suction socket, but the suction ain't that good because it's hard to find guys that make pin system sockets that can make, you know, sealed sockets. But this still works really good. And the thing is, I could rock this over that liner, right? And now I got a ring and a pin, right? It helps much better if you spray it with alcohol, but listen, like now it's even more of a snug fit with that ring down there than it was just having the liner. And then press this and release the valve. Okay, and got it out. I could also rock a sleeve over this. So that's what a lot of guys that I grew up with racing and guys are kind of going back to, is the sleeve with the pin and then the option of the ring as well. Now here's what's also great. If you have a shorter stump, I definitely suggest you check out a pin and kind of run this system right here and try to find a prosthetist that can get you a suction sealed socket so you're not always like blowing the air out. It's not actually holding. But the benefit is, if it's not holding, you're still connected distally. You're not relying just on the suction socket like this one right here or the vacuum. So that's why this one is kind of like a goated system, right? So like I got the sleeve on, right? That's gonna hold it up. I got the ring and I got the pin. Is it overkill? I don't think so. Like, dude, okay, see how it's like holding. See how like now there's some type of suction right there, right? That's really good. And it may stay like that for a little bit, it may go away. Yeah, now I can see it starting to rise. So there's a slow leak somewhere. But either way, this still feels really tight and good. So it's like, man, that's a pretty good option for competing with and every day. And the reason why I do like pin system is because it's, dude, such low maintenance, and this is my everyday driver. You know, like this is my like forerunner of legs, you know, essentially. It's like the AR-15 of prosthetic legs because there's just so much stuff you can customize and change. I can add socks too and stuff, no problem, if I change volume. And The one good thing about the vacuum system though is it maintains volume really well, where the pin system, it doesn't, and it's pulling the bottom. Now here's some of the complications that you can run into with the suction and even the pin. The suction one, if you have, you know, you bump your knee on something, man, you better be able to have room to roll that sleeve down, because otherwise that's the only thing that's holding you in is that one-way valve. The other issue is, I think that's the biggest one. The valve too, just make sure you have a good valve and have spare valves to be able to swap that out. And the issue on the pin system is it's pulling, right? Like this, like pulling down. And so it's constantly like kind of pulling your skin like this. So you can get like the suction and the pin, you can get pressure points. All right, you can get pressure points on your limb, like bony areas, like right here, maybe right here, like wherever you have bony areas, you can get pressure points when your limb changes volume. The vacuum seal, theoretically what it does is it creates an evenly distributed amount of pressure around your limb, so you don't have any pressure points, which is great. But when you do on those, it is so bad. And you have to play around with like pads and stuff, and you know, the whole figuring out process of getting a good fitting vacuum sealed socket can take time. Not always if you got a really good prosthetist, just depends on the experience level. But for me, I'm like, dude, what is the lowest maintenance? Like, let's say that an emergency happened, there's an earthquake. What can I throw on right now and be able to just run out the door and be like, I can survive on this leg? In my opinion, is this pin one right here. Great with water, like bro, wakeboarding, surfing with this pin system is really, really good. I think maybe, did I bring? Yeah, so my surf leg, actually, like I'll make another video if you guys want, but I have different liners. So like, this is just, I have a surf leg that was made a long, long time ago before I was sponsored by Oser. But this is just a really long liner. Like you can see, like my limb goes down to here. So it's significantly longer, like 3 to 4 more inches. And what that does is, this is another silicone material. It's different than this one right here that I'm wearing from the Oser. But the thing is, that's more friction on your skin. So even when water goes in there, I can kind of just like squeeze it out like that, and it's gonna stay on my skin. So that's more room, like where it's holding down your skin, less likely to, like your leg is gonna be pulled off. But I can go into like pros and cons of liners as well. My thing is, the pin system, in my opinion, is just, dude, it's just so easy, low maintenance. I could throw a sleeve on this as well. Dude, the other thing is, like when you wear sleeves and stuff, you can't just chill out on your knees. Like you gotta think about that as an amputee. If you're doing yoga, if you're working on stuff, you're on your knees, whatever it is, praying, you know, whatever it is. But that's what I didn't like about suction for an everyday driver, because then it's like, dude, if I'm working on the car or something like that, anything that where I gotta put my knee down, I can't do it, man. Can't do it, because you're gonna puncture a hole in your sleeve, and these are so expensive, bro. They're so expensive. So man, I can't tell you how much, like just bump my knee going through a door or something like that, and then it's like, dang dude, I got a hole in my sleeve, I gotta get a new sleeve. So I like this. It's like, dude, if I was going camping or something, what kind of leg would I want? I think the pin system is the best for like everyday stuff. If I could, like, I think, yeah, I just think it's the best. But you can get problems. Like here, check it out. So like where I mentioned the vacuum seal can like pull away your skin, here's the thing. So like on the back of my knee right now, because my limb was changing volumes, I'm not sure if you can see, there's some red like bumps right here. What was happening was I was walking my dog, and I had like, I don't know, lost a little bit of water weight or something, but my leg felt a little bit looser. Started rubbing on the back. And when it rubs on the back, like you get a hair follicle, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, you got like, it looks and feels like a pimple. You just throw some tea tree oil on there at night, and that really, really, really helps. So I've just been doing that at night, and it's like the next day I forget all about it. But the thing is, like, look at, so like, see how my calf is like kind of protruding over that? So you can get a prosthetist to make a better fitting like socket, so it's not like a shelf right here, which can cause problems long term. But the thing is, that's a pressure point that I was talking about. So no matter what socket you go with, you know, those are some limitations you're gonna have. You're gonna have something that is working, something that isn't. Now, I wish I had the other socket here that I lost when I was surfing. I lost this foot when I was surfing, and it's the BOA system with the click. I have a photo on it. I'll show that right now. And I was surfing, and I was only connected by the pressure of the boa system, and that thing, a wave came and ripped that sucker right off. And actually, it was a pin system, boa system. That's what it was. It was with, I think, the Ohio Willowwood, and it had the pin on the bottom, and I had the boa system, but the inner socket was not connected to the outer socket that good. And it was just like a coyote lock system, just like this, just like the black button. But that wave ripped that outer shell socket right off the inner shell socket, and yeah, no more boa system for me. But it didn't work for me. Now I tried the one where it's just like back in the calf, but it was just providing me a lot of problems in my calf. I couldn't run in it. I couldn't walk in, or I couldn't, I tried kicking a soccer ball and the leg went flying off. So that just shows you how loose it was. So now there's definitely like solutions of keeping the inner socket connected to the outer socket. The boa system is pretty cool because theoretically you can eliminate any socks, because you have that snowboard like click, you know, and twist, and they have like doors right here that could like go in, or the back of the calf. And so theoretically you can eliminate the need for socks. The only issue is I just needed a better connection from inner socket to outer socket, and I'm sure there's people that know how to do that really good now, because the system's been out for a long time, and this was back in 2017. But these are the sockets. If you guys have any questions about like sleeves, liners, like what I use, what I've tried, because I've tried like, dude, all the different materials as well. I can go on another video on that. Let me know what you guys are interested in. I'm just making these videos to help you guys, because I have over 20 years of experience as an amputee and a 3-time Paralympian. So I spent the past 2 decades learning and refining things to have the best equipment for myself, and I've traveled to Italy to get it done, and I've worked with some of the best prosthetists in the US as well. So let me know if you have any questions and if I can provide some other value.